Today, the big guns roll. The stars of cycling hit the road here in Geelong on the second day of competition at the World Championships. It's the prelude to Sunday's blue ribbon event, the Elite Men's Road Race. The long-range forecasts suggest the weather is just going to keep on improving. A cool afternoon ahead for competitors. Partly cloudy conditions, top of 17 degrees. Wind direction could change, though, for the riders, with gusts between 20 or 10 and 20 kilometres an hour. A very passionate crowd lined the streets of Geelong yesterday, many coming to check it out during their lunch hour, and youngsters, of course, making the most of the school holidays. Hi everybody, I'm Greg Rust. Welcome to day 2 of the World Road Cycling Championships. The final time trial starts in less than 30 minutes. They call it in this sport the race of truth, and the focus today is on the elite men. Now, there's some of the best international riders in the world here from more than 50 countries, including one of the crowd favourites, a rider they call Spartacus, Fabian Cancellara. But Australia has won gold in this discipline before, and we are a very, very good chance of bagging another medal today.
In Geelong, every cloud has a silver lining, and for Australia's Luke Durbridge, it could not have been more true. The damp tarmac didn't dampen his spirit as he brought home Australia's first medal in these Road World Championships. Then, the women's elite, determined by the closest of margins, saw the Empire strike back. Today, the men's elite. Their time trial will live up to its name. A trial of the most challenging order. A race against the clock that will push these athletes to the very edge and beyond. They'll discover new boundaries of pain, reach beyond the limits of their stamina, and ride the ragged edge all the way home. We'll give you every angle, up close and way up high. It's day 2 of the Road World Cycling Championships, and we've only just begun.
If it's anything like the first day of competition, we are in for a fantastic afternoon. We're joined here now in the studio by the voices of cycling, Phil Liggett and Paul Sherwin. Good afternoon to both of you. Let's deal, before we preview the men's elite time trial, with a breaking story now. We're talking about Alberto Contador, the 3-time Tour de France winner. He won this year's event by 39 seconds over Andy Schleck. He has reportedly tested positive to the banned substance clenbuterol. This is an evolving story. We haven't heard from him yet. He's due to address the press at about 8 o'clock tonight, our time. He's not competing here. We should make that point.
That's correct. Well, the world is stunned, but I think you've got to first of all realise just this. Let me read you the amount found in his blood. 50 picograms of clenbuterol, which equates to 0.000,000,000,000,000,005 grams per millilitre. It should never have reached the public domain, Paul.
No, it certainly shouldn't have done. I'm a little bit shocked and stunned, and I think that's because of that small amount. I think that's why it's taken such a long period of time to actually come out into the public. Alberto Contador was himself, in fact, informed halfway through the month of August. It's taken until now for it to actually come out into the public domain, and I think we're all waiting with bated breath until tonight, because at 12 o'clock European time in the small town of Pinto, just outside of Madrid, where Alberto Contador comes from, he will be making a statement, and I can only hope that this is going to be clarified.
It relates to a test that took place on the Tour de France. We should state that.
On the rest day info.
And his camp are saying that he is the victim of food contamination. That's all we know at the moment.
Yes, and it is used in food, so, you know, it's quite possibly is true. But these amounts are minuscule. They wouldn't help a rabbit jump over a fence. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it should never have come. Can you imagine this coming out in the grand final on Monday morning? It would never reach the public domain. So no, it's completely ridiculous. I know the organisation, the Tour de France, will be devastated because just before I flew here, we were saying, I met with the organisation, and they were saying what a great tour it was, and it was a clean tour, and we all felt it was a clean tour. And most importantly, because he won the tour and because of who he is, he was tested virtually on a daily basis. And only on this one day, the rest day of the Tour de France in Pau, has this very strange result come up.
We've ticked that
he
box.
He is suspended, by the way, but that's routine. But the Tour de France, the UCI rather, are here in Melbourne, and they're issuing the statements from Melbourne.
All right, let's move ahead now to the event here today. There is so much hype and excitement associated with this. 22.8 kilometres is the circuit length, but they do 2 laps, so 45.6 k's in all. This is a gruelling, unrelenting sprint, isn't it?
It certainly is. I think if you look at the climb that the riders have to tackle, that's going to be the most important part of this circuit, which they will do on 2 occasions. The big man that we've all been talking about is the pre-race favourite, Fabian Cancellara, will not like the hilly part of the course. He's been beaten on courses like this previously, but he has got the power of 14 kilometres or so of flatlands after the hill to pull himself back into this race.
I think it's an absolutely fantastic course, as we saw yesterday. We had a wonderful day's coverage yesterday, blowing my own trumpet a bit there with you guys, but I thought it was absolutely fantastic. The action was all there for us all to see. Today, this is the very, very best time trial field. All of the guys who have a chance have come to Australia. There's nobody missing.
Let's try and give you a feel, if you're watching at home now, for the venue, for the course. We have reporters positioned all round it. We have both Matt Keenan and Will McCloy, but first up we say good afternoon to Nikki Barnett.
Queen's Park is one of the most spectacular parts of this course, and it will play a decisive role in who is crowned the time trial world champion. A young Danish rider, he came to grief here on the bridge yesterday in the under-23s, so there's sure to be plenty of action for the spectators. Riders were clocked at over 95 kilometres an hour on the approach into Queen's Park, but an S-bend is likely to slow them down, so all their momentum will be gone by the time they hit the bridge. It'll be very tough to get the rhythm back. Let's cross over to Matt Keenan on another key point of the course.
Thanks, Nikki. And as you'd expect, in an individual time trial, Fabian Cancellara, he normally starts the unbackable favourite. Not necessarily so today. I'm out on the course on Mount Pleasant Road, which really is the greatest lie since the never-ending story. It should actually be called Mount Unpleasant Road. And it was on a course like this at last year's Tour de France where we saw Cancellara get beaten. And this year at the Tour of Spain, he was beaten once again, and it was by Peter Valets. And Peter Valets is here today to see whether he can get the better of Cancellara and get that rainbow jersey. Michael Rogers is another man, like Fabian Cancellara, that's won the time trial 3 times. And he was beaten in the Tour of Romandy this year by Richie Porte, who's another rider that's going to be wearing the green and gold representing Australia. He's here to race today. So the 2 best, they've been beaten, and they've been beaten on courses like this one. By the time they reach Will at the finish line, we'll find out exactly who it is that's going to be wearing that rainbow jersey for the next 12 months.
Thanks, Matty. Well, 360 days out of the year, this is the Geelong main street, but this week it's where gold medals are decided. We saw it yesterday, Luke Durbridge riding a wave of home support. He posted a great time, stood for nearly 3 hours before American Taylor Phinney came through and did him by 1.9 seconds only. Today, the men's time trial, the one everyone's here to see, Spartacus, Fabian Cancellara, the man with the huge legs, he's going to be powering up this stretch, but the Australian Richie Porte is second last out of the start house. He's gone from amateur Italian racing to a stage of the Giro d'Italia in just 3 years, and he's going to be riding that very same wave of support all the way up Moorabool Street, Rusty.
And that'll be worth a huge amount to him. We'll deal with some of the Aussie contenders on the other side of the break, and we will count down to race start. Day 2 of the World Championships right here on One.
In Mendrisio, the world was left in awe of the speed and skill of one man, Fabian Cancellara. From the outset of the 49.8-kilometre test, it was clear this would be a special ride. Swedish star Gustav Larsson was out to avenge the battle the pair fought out at the Beijing Olympics. Carried on a wave of home support, Cancellara continued to tear up the road. After overtaking Larson, the Swiss speedster then passed another highly fancied contender before the end of lap 2. Bradley Wiggins couldn't put up a fight. To make matters worse, the Brit had mechanical problems on the final lap, dropping to 21st. Bronze would go to Germany's Tony Martin. It was a spectacular display of riding by Cancellara. Using every inch of road, he crushed his rivals, easing off only within sight of the finish to savour the moment.
It was a remarkable effort, but last year he was in his own backyard. This year he's in ours. And I have to say, he's been wonderful with the press and wonderful with the fans here so far this week, hasn't he?
But that's the sort of guy he is, Rusty. I mean, we saw the pictures there, and we saw him with two arms in the air as if he won a road race world title. He gave away 8 seconds of his time just so he could wave to the crowd. He knew he'd won by a mile. It was a tremendous moment in bike riding.
No, it certainly was, and just watching those images again from last year, I've already started to get chicken bumps because it really is going to be an incredible individual time trial this afternoon. Win or lose, Fabian Cancellara will put on a brilliant show. I think the thing about Fabian Cancellara is he has the respect of all of the guys that he races with, and this year we saw him dominate Paris-Roubaix and the Tour of Flanders in an incredible fashion, and then go on to ride superbly in the Tour de France. I'm not sure whether he'll get beaten today, but I know there's two Aussies looking to see whether they can take him off the top spot, because I think Mick Rogers is in fine form here this afternoon, but one man, the big secret, I think, is Richie Porte. He's one of the guys who's really on the way up. And in fact, Fabian Cancellara has said if there's one man he fears, it's his own trade teammate, Richie Porte.
Well, let's talk more about that, because Cancellara's more or less put that pressure on Richie Porte. This is what he had to say in response to that.
I mean, it's very nice of Fabian to say such nice things about me, but also he throws a bit of pressure my way. So, yeah, I mean, whatever. Thanks, Fabian. Chapeau. Look, he's the best, and you know, to be acknowledged by him, it means a lot. But it's not going to change the way I go out and ride my race tomorrow. It's still, you know, still going to have to go out and ride full gas. So, yeah, water up a duck's back.
Great respect there from Richie Porte, who's from Tasmania, a former triathlete who is part of our new breed of stars here, and a very big chance. He'll be the second last rider to start out in this time trial, followed by Fabian Cancellara. Let's talk about day one, because Richie Porte was actually in the car following Luke Durbridge yesterday, I guess to take a closer look at the course. But that was one of the many bits of motivation, shall we say, for Durbridge, which spurred him on. He was in the hot seat for 3 hours yesterday, looked like winning the gold medal. In the end, it was silver, but by only 1.9 seconds. It was terrific, wasn't it?
And we have to say that Luke got the worst of the day. He got the rain squalls, as the wet roads as he came up to the finish, and Taylor didn't. But, you know, the best man, I think, did win in this case. Taylor is a fantastic bike rider, but I think today Luke is talking of following Richie Porte, if that's the case. Tit for tat, and good for him.
Nice support.
Well, I think it's a really question of... yesterday, Richie Porte, I think, wanted to see that race route at race speed so he could understand the corners and he could figure out just exactly where he needed to dose his efforts. I think the reciprocal move today is really just for a little bit of fun.
We're about to let you go to the commentary position. We're going to start the preview. We can't wait to get this going. Durbridge, we need to make the point. At 19 years, 173 days, became yesterday the youngest rider to win an under-23 World Time Trial medal, and he did it some 33 days younger than Fabian Cancellara, who won silver in France 10 years ago. It was a tremendous start to these championships for Australia. Michael Rogers will compete as well. He's a 3-time world champion at this discipline. Let's see how they go right after the break here on One.